How do you think like a programmer? How do professional software developers, people who are getting paid for this, think? First off, let's define what being a programmer even is. Being a programmer is writing code to solve a problem. As a software developer, you're solving some sort of a problem, you're creating a solution using code. If you're going to solve problems, you have to think more methodically, which basically means you have more structure to how you think. You're more orderly in your thoughts. Being methodical is really about breaking down problems, like big problems into smaller problems. Most people, when they are assigned a really hard project, get overwhelmed. They don't even know what to do. The problem with them is they're seeing the problem as a whole, in its entirety, and they are unable to break it down into its smallest parts. So when you have a problem, when you have an application, a project that you want to build, instead of seeing it as this big problem you have to solve, you want to methodically break that down into its requisite parts. And this is what programmers do really, really well. Let's say you're going to build an expense tracker to keep track of your expenses on a day-to-day basis. Each application or project that you're going to do is also going to have an action to it. For example, your expense tracker application is going to allow a user to create an expense, to edit an expense, and to delete an expense. Maybe you're going to allow users to log in so we can save that to a database. So you're kind of deciding everything that your application is going to do, which essentially means breaking it down into its requisite parts. So, first, programmers are really good about not seeing everything as a whole. They see things as little tiny parts that they can go through one by one and build them out. The next thing when it comes to thinking more like a programmer is really how to think algorithmically. Thinking algorithmically is a fancy way of saying thinking more like a recipe. When you create a certain meal, you follow a recipe. That's basically what you do as a programmer. The biggest problem when people first start coding is that they often assume that the computer knows what they want to do, that it can sort of read their mind. But the reality is, computer is really dumb. You can write software for the computer to do pretty much anything, but a computer doesn't ever really guess what you're trying to think. And that's where most people get wrong when they start getting into code. They think that if they learn the syntax of a programming language, that will be enough to get any outcome they want. But they don't realize that they have to get the exact recipe down for whatever outcome they want, whether it's a to-do app or a financial trading application. But you are the director of that, and you have to really break that down into step by step. So that's where it sort of ties in with breaking a project down into smaller parts, with thinking more methodically and thinking more algorithmically. Hope this helps.